What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the King's Court podcast with me, Vincent Miracle, here for SatKingsNation.com. As you guys saw in the intro, SatKingsNation.com presents the King's Court. Joining me today, special guest CJ Maffris from, I guess now, Page 2 Sports.
Yeah.
Not Hound Sports anymore.
Did a little bit of changing around there, but yep. Still the same. Still the same.
Still the same. All right, guys. Well, playoffs times is here, and although this is the Kings Court and the Kings are not in the playoffs again for the 9th consecutive year in a row, they are in the lottery. But we're NBA fans, all right? We're not going to overlook the fact that the playoffs are going on, and we've had a couple of good playoff games, and as of lately, a couple of blowouts that have been pretty much horrible to watch. They've been so boring. I've literally fallen asleep twice in both games. Woke up and like, is the game over yet? No? All right, forget it. I'm going to start watching Disney Channel with my daughter. That's literally like the situation that's been going on over here. CJ, give me your thoughts on the playoffs so far. Does the Rockets have a chance, or do the Hawks even have a chance?
It's funny. I was tweeting about this after the Hawks lost game 2, where it's like we have the same exact series where both teams are up 2-0, yet one is considered to be really exciting, and the other is, well, turning out to be kind of a bummer, at least for Atlanta fans. And it's got to be like a worst case scenario for NBA when it comes to like TV deals and like marketing and things like that. Because what if both of these ended sweeps, which is looking like it? They're going to have like a week or so of just no basketball because the finals don't start until June.
Yeah, but this is why I think this is kind of why I think the NBA is going to be kind of manipulated in the fact where, how it's called that gentleman sweep when someone wins one game and the other person wins in 5. That gentleman sweep. I am willing to put money on the line that both teams do gentleman sweeps.
You think?
They're going to let – no, yeah, I know. The Hawks are going to win one. They're going to sit Kyrie. Somehow LeBron James is going to get into foul trouble. That's going to be a storyline throughout the entire thing. DeMar Carroll's going to get paid for it because he's going to be like, oh, man, great lockdown defense by DeMar Carroll, unrestricted free agent. You go over to Houston side, wow, James Harden did all this, this, and this. But you're going to notice that, well, Steph Curry was missing his shot, but they're actually going to let him win one game. Courtesy game. I bet you it's that next game. Was it game 4?
It'll be game 4.
Yeah, game 4.
Game 3 was last night.
Yeah, they're not going to sweep.
I don't know.
They're both gentlemen sweeps.
I find it hard to believe Atlanta can win a game. Korver's done, and granted, Korver hasn't been his all-star self this postseason. Carroll doesn't look the same. He really does. And how could we expect him to be the same after a non-contact knee injury like that? Despite what trainers and everyone says, you're going to have that in the back of your head, regardless of whatever a doctor's going to tell you. It's going to take a little bit. But Al Horford's been limping a lot in the past, at least last game. It looked like he was having a little bit of trouble. Not hearing anything about him missing game 3, but I haven't heard anything to contradict that. So, I mean, we just have to wait and see with that. But I do not see, Bazemore being able to save this team. I can't see, Teague being able to do anything, or Schroeder, yeah, but it's more along the lines where it's like I can't see them winning a game. I can't. I mean, even without Kyrie and without Love, like Michael Smith of ESPN was saying, like a big 3 is just LeBron with 2 warm bodies, and he hasn't been any more right after watching how LeBron has been playing in this postseason. And like he hasn't been, the greatest player we've ever seen by far, especially when you looked at how bad his three-point shooting was during the Bulls series. But he didn't need to be lights out from 3 to have the team pretty much handled, in my opinion. I mean, sure, Chicago had, a buzzer beater. They won game 1 even too, but it was like, I never really thought that Cleveland was had to be in desperation mode. I mean, they had a head coach who was calling the phantom timeout, like Chris Webber didn't get called. He almost had LeBron inbound the ball instead of having him take a shot or at least try to be a distraction for that play in game 4 that he was able to get the bucket. So it's like all these bad things. I mean, no Love. Irving seems to be on his last legs, yet they're doing fine. So it's like LeBron really is carrying this team. So I don't see how Atlanta can do it. I mean, I could see the Rockets. I mean, they're at home even too. they're in Houston, so they could easily, feed off that crowd. James Harden and Howard, doing their thing. And even Trevor Ariza, who was looking like, the Lakers Ariza, at least early on in the postseason, especially during that great comeback against the Clippers. So could I see that one? Oh, yeah, definitely, especially because of the respect I have for James Harden and Dwight Howard. But Atlanta's going to be in Cleveland. Those fans are rabid. Like, I've lived in Ohio for 4 years. Those fans are just pleading to the gods, let us win one. We'll take just one. They were joking. Friends of mine are joking, saying if like the Browns or the Cavs or, any Cleveland team won a title, not OSU, they're talking, pros, they'd flip their own cars and, they would sacrifice their firstborn to keep the stuff going. So they're really nuts. I just can't see Atlanta doing well in that kind of atmosphere.
I think watching Atlanta proves two things. One, the Eastern Conference is weak. The Eastern Conference literally is the little brother to the Western Conference. That's hands down.
AAA basketball.
Definitely. The second thing it does prove is that regular season basketball and playoff basketball are two completely different things. Literally, they were playing against the Washington Wizards, and I thought the Wizards were actually going to pull that series out. I am actually very surprised that Atlanta is actually in this Eastern Conference Finals because the way Paul Pierce was playing so clutch, I think if Wall didn't have to, even though they won the game, I believe they won the game, even though Wall sat out, if he would have played every single game, did not get that hand injury or was limited at all, that was the Wizards series.
Absolutely.
In my opinion. And then on top of that, you're watching Seed 1 versus Seed 8, Brooklyn versus freaking Atlanta, and you're watching that game and you're like, are you serious? Are you
I give Brooklyn a little more.
Serious?
I don't get why Brooklyn wanted to trade Brook Lopez.
Stop it.
He was a monster.
Stop it. Stop it.
He was. And I have respect for Joe Johnson's game.
You trade him.
When you want to blow it up, absolutely. Because you can get some great assets.
Now. You trade him now.
You could get some good assets for him because he's a low post body who can score. And to me, that seems so rare. He is injury prone, but during the postseason, he was getting 20 and 10. I'll take that any day.
All right, I'm gonna tell you. Okay,
bring him to Boston. Bring him to Boston, please.
Go to Boston.
I will take you.
Okay, I'm telling you right now. Go to Boston. This is what's gonna happen after about 25 games. You're gonna be stuck in the same scenario you were this year, where you don't really have a center and you're relying on Jared Sullinger to hopefully take a charge, and then his back doesn't get hurt.
We had to deal
that's what's gonna happen.
The Celtics had to deal with Vin Baker, so I'm okay. I'll take 25 awesome games of Brook Lopez being able to score and rebound.
Like, Brook Lopez is a very nice player. But
yeah,
Brooklyn,
I get what you're saying.
Brooklyn needs the trade. Like, for one, the way they set up their draft picks is ugly. The way they try to assemble a team is horrendous.
They did get Mason Plumlee, right? I got to give them that.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I forgot about Mason. That's, franchise changer right there. That's right.
I'm just saying, at least,
he's the next.
I wish the Celtics could scout as well as the Kings, being able to find some pretty decent talent that isn't top number 1, number 2 pick, being able to find a good contributor like Mason Plumlee. I'm not saying he's game changing, but the scouts are right about him to be able to plug him in, and he's looked fine. He blocked LeBron, for God's sake. Oh my God!
Stop it! It's a block. All right, I've blocked a 7-footer. Doesn't mean I can do it all the time. All right.
I'm just impressed. I'm really impressed.
No, I understand what you're saying. Mason Plumlee, he is potential. He's a good little prospect. Or I say little, but he's like a damn center.
I get what you're saying.
But you look at Plumlee. The cool thing about Plumlee is he has that motor. The one thing I don't like about Plumlee is he got so overhyped. Because, he started over Brook Lopez. Whoa! You know what I mean?
Did he actually start over Brook Lopez? I thought he was playing alongside him.
No, he started over Brook. Brook Lopez came off of the bench for, I believe, 15 games. And the coaches were like, the media was always asking the coach, why are you saying? What are you talking about? Brook Lopez is getting starters minutes, but he's coming off the bench. And I understand that reasoning because I live with that. It doesn't matter who starts the game; it's about who finishes.
Right.
But it's Mason. When you think of Mason Plumlee, to me for Brooklyn would be like the Christian Laettner now. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
That one player. But instead of everyone hating him, everyone's just like, no, he's really that good. No,
Maybe he's the new Brian
he's really that.
Scalabrine.
No one's the next Brian Scalabrine.
Ain't that the truth? I give credit for Brooklyn being able to find someone who wasn't, near the top 10. Like you have back when the Supersonics were still around, they drafted like number 10 Sayar Sen, and he like, come on, like you drafted high. At least in my opinion, a lottery pick is high just compared to like the other team. So it's like they found Mason Plumlee at like 17, 18. I was like, wow, and I didn't think he would amount to really anything. Miles Plumlee didn't really do much when he was playing before he got traded to Phoenix. And then all of a sudden he found the right system, the right coach. So it kind of worked out. And seeing that the Nets were able to, draft the right guy for their system at the time, I was like, oh, wow, I'm impressed. Celtics are still trying to figure that out with Marcus Banks on their track record.
I didn't know we were going to be talking about a East final conference final team.
But got there.
I mean, we got there. We're in it.
It's a perfect segue for the draft that's coming up. How about your Kings, huh?
We're talking about Brooklyn. It's in the Barclays. It's the draft in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So I guess it is a nice little segue going into there. But before we get there, I kind of still want to hit on the Houston series a little bit more.
Oh, sure.
Because watching the Rockets, I think after Game 2, that heartbreak of how Harden both games, Game 1 and Game 2, almost had a triple-double, almost in both games beat Golden State in Golden State. And I think after losing Game 2, putting up 38 points, grabbing 11 rebounds actually, and having 9 assists, and then losing the way they did, not even putting up a shot. Everyone's talking about the timeout. Okay, and for me, I agree with the people that are on this side of on the what he should have done. Because the timeout, not timeout. It's no timeout. You have Draymond Green, arguably their best defender, out of bounds. You have Harrison Barnes on the ground after trying to do a reverse layup like he's an all-star. He's not, all right? He's a nice player, but he shouldn't have been doing that. He's on the fast break. He has been taking Klay Thompson the past, I think it was the last 6 possessions. He was actually getting foul calls and getting to the basket with Klay Thompson on him. And on top of that, you look at Steph Curry, everyone's going to say he's a good defender, he's better at defending, but he's not going to – I don't see him stopping James Harden. I think what stopped James Harden was what he did was predictable. Instead of going straight down the middle, he went straight to his left side to attack the left side because that's his strong hand. And that's why he got blocked off. You don't call timeout. I see it as you have the second MVP, the runner-up MVP, going downhill, the best downhill player in the NBA right now, arguably next to LeBron James. And it's a 3-on-2 situation. Secondly, you pass the ball to Dwight Howard. Everyone's called timeout there. Well, there's actually 3.6 seconds on the clock, 3.2 seconds on the clock, right around that area. Maybe it was like 2.8 to be the worst case scenario. That's still enough time for Harden to run toward him and get the ball there and shoot the ball from behind Dwight Howard, using him as a screen and possibly getting the foul from there, doing a flop like he does. So I call a no timeout from that. I want to hear your thoughts. Should they have called timeout? What side of the spectrum are you on?
I lean more to where you're saying. I mean, to me, there was no wrong answer. If you didn't want to call a timeout, that's fine. Like you say, James Harden, and numbers say, James Harden's one of the best at getting a foul call. So you're telling me, even though he was on the road, you're telling me they wouldn't call a foul if he's charging in, as hard as he can into the hoop to try to get something to happen? Sure, it's just, it turned out it didn't go the way that he wanted, and he got a little trapped onto the side. And I think if you were going to call timeout, the only time you should have at least considered it was when Dwight Howard has the ball at the 3-point line, because you don't expect Dwight Howard to be open. I don't like calling timeouts all the time, but I could see that where it's like, okay, there's obviously something wrong if Dwight Howard is still at the 3-point line on the fast break, considering, he can actually run. He's a decent runner. So you kind of have that to at least look at, where it's like, if you're going to call timeout, call it right there, because you shouldn't have Dwight Howard with the ball at the 3-point line. But you got to give Golden State credit where I don't think people realize this. They were the best defensive team in the NBA numbers-wise. So being able to stop Harden, I think, was pretty impressive. It was Klay Thompson. It was Steph Curry. It wasn't, Draymond Green who was doing the dirty work, or Bogut he's been phenomenal. He really has been. You hear Golden State talk about all the time about how if Bogut wasn't hurt, this team would be much different in the postseason. They still made some decent runs before he's been healthy. Now that he's been healthy, defense is even better. And the numbers, like I said, support it, where they're the best statistical defensive team in the league. So I think while a timeout probably wouldn't have helped as much, I think if Dwight Howard had the ball up at the top, I would have immediately been like, why does he okay, something's not right. Let's try to set something up so Harden could get a little time to be free. Would that have helped? Probably not, considering how good Bogut would be in the paint, how good Draymond Green has been doing defensively, how Steph Curry and Klay Thompson have been doing well defensively compared to what they have earlier in their careers. So honestly, it probably would have made less of a difference, but I bet you there wouldn't be this much a debate about whether a timeout should have been called or not.
Also, guys, I want to give a shout-out to our sponsor, the King's Court. If you want quality clothes at a quality price, be sure to go to the quality shop located in downtown Roseville. Mention that you heard about their shop from here, the King's Court, and they'll give you a 10% discount on all their clothes. All right, back to Brooklyn. Not the team, but the Barclays Center on June 25th, the NBA draft. CJ, we talked about it before the show. I mean, Kings fans love Willie-Cauley Stein. I posted an article it was actually the last podcast I did. It was basically drafting Stein at 6, and I was actually against it. I like Willie-Cauley Stein, but like I told you off air, I do not like him at the 6th pick. I want to hear your thoughts on Willie-Cauley Stein from Kentucky.
I think it goes to show really how big of a drop-off it is from the first 3. I'm only saying 3. I think there are 3 players that are, not like Anthony Davis or anything that crazy, but there are 3 players who I would pick, 1, 2, 3 in any order. To me, it really doesn't matter, and that would be Okafor, Towns, and Russell. Obviously, Emmanuel Mudiay. It's very odd. I haven't seen enough. I get updates from different types of sports outlets that talk about, he did this in China, he did this in China. I need to see more. I think Draft Express is probably the best place to really see some of the stuff he has. But he didn't play against, top tier competition that, Towns, Okafor, and Russell faced off in. Now, after that drop off right there, it's really a who's who of who you just like and who you think would be a better prospect for your system. I could see Willie-Cauley Stein going all the way up to 5th, which is, just 1 pick ahead of the Kings. It's not like it'd be that much of a difference kind of a thing, but he could easily fall all the way down to 10th. So you see how there's that kind of flux going around from that 5 to 10 area where a lot of teams are like, yeah, there's some talented guys, but we're not sure, A, if it's going to fit our system, or B, if they're even worth the value like you were talking about with Stein. Do I think Stein's worth the value? I'm probably higher on him than you are just because of where it's like after pick 4, I would probably pick Stein as the next best possible prospect just because I've been able to watch him for a lot. I like, as much as a lot of NBA general managers would be like, what are you talking about? It's always younger players you want just because you can get more years. But I like players that have been in the college system for a while. Adrian Payne was someone who I really liked, even though he didn't really amount to much this season. The jury isn't out on him yet. He'll be in Minnesota. We'll see how that helps. I was a huge Draymond Green fan before he was drafted to Golden State. He was a senior. And, Digger Phelps for ESPN would always talk about his man crush or just, his love affair, how he likes, because he played the game right. He was drafted in the 2nd round, and look at him. He's about to get max money, whether it be from Golden State or someone else who overvalues or just thinks, he's worth that kind of thing. So I kind of like older players that enter the league because they're more mature. They're kind of grown into their body a little bit. And I think even though the personality is kind of out there with Willie-Cauley Stein, I think he kind of understands like his personality and how it would fit on different teams. So I think it would be okay to draft him wherever he goes, if it's 5 to 10 or lower. But I'm not going to be like saying, oh yeah, he's definitely, the best possible person you can take at that spot, especially if he lands at 6 for the Kings. But I mean, it's such a weird draft for me. We won't know. I mean, look at Jimmy Butler. He was drafted 30th and he's about to get max money. It's so hard to be able to predict how well a player is going to do, where I wouldn't be mad if the Kings picked Cauley Stein, but I mean, he's 7'1" from what ESPN was saying through his measurables. So I'm thinking, I thought he was kind of a short center, so you could put him at the 4, and that way you can play him and Cousins together because Cauley Stein's a great rim protector, as is Cousins. okay, maybe not great, but he's still decent. I would definitely like Cousins protecting the rim compared to a lot of other centers and power forwards out there. But I feel like if you draft Willie-Cauley Stein, it's going to stunt his growth because he's going to be behind Cousins. I don't care what anyone says. It's like, oh, you can play him at the 4. His natural position is the 5, the shot blocker, the one patrolling the paint. And him and Cousins are just going to, I mean, there'll be 2 trees down there if they're played together, but it really doesn't make much sense to me, at least to draft them, really. But, I mean, sometimes you go for the best player available. Maybe they would draft him so they can get a trade. There's a lot of teams that are lower in the draft that would love to have Willie-Cauley Stein, like the 617 area code, which if your fans might not know, but that's Boston. I know Boston is very high on Willie-Cauley Stein. So I'm just there's been no news about any like trade baiting with things like that, especially with the Celtics. I know the Knicks are shopping their pick, but I just there's nothing wrong with Cauley Stein, but I don't see the fit for Sacramento personally.
I don't know if you guys know this, but CJ is from Boston. So every time he says, I don't know if you guys know this, but, Boston's interested in Willie-Cauley Stein, it's because, well, he's from Boston. So that's kind of what – it's like Bill Simmons. If you ever listen to his stuff, even though he's not on ESPN, you won't be hearing his stuff probably for a little while.
Right. It's just,
every time he goes, oh, yeah, Boston likes him. Oh,
but it's
yeah,
true.
Cousins? Yeah, Boston wants Cousins.
Well, I'm not that crazy. But, I mean – for Willie-Cauley Stein, I remember back before the playoff push that the Celtics had, a lot of people were putting the Celtics in the 7 to 8 range. They didn't have Isaiah Thomas yet. They traded away Rondo and Jeff Green, so it's like it looked pretty bleak. And so they were in that 7 to 8 range, and that's where I kind of put Cauley Stein. But he would like
that's why I still have him.
Right, that's the thing where he would have been, the perfect fit in a sense where they needed that rim protector, which is the only reason why I mentioned Boston. I can easily see, Orlando at 5 wanting to take him to kind of be with Vujacic. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not a big believer on Aaron Gordon in their system. I think he's turning into like the Derek Williams of their system where you have a high-flying 4 and it just doesn't work out. He's actually been pretty okay with Sacramento, so it's not like he's a lost player, but I just think for Vujacic, who's more of a soft 5, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's a bad insult to call an NBA player, so I'm not trying to like call anyone out. I just see Willie-Cauley Stein throwing his body around more than Vujacic. So I would say, Vujacic can play both the 4 and the 5, so you can put him at the 4 and then put Stein at the 5. I think that would be a much better fit. But it'd be the same thing if you're looking at other teams lower in the draft that are, missing that piece. What if all of a sudden Chicago decides they don't want to continue with Joakim Noah? Great replacement for that would be Willie-Cauley Stein. So maybe the Kings or whoever, maybe be a 3-team deal or something where you would throw around, Joakim Noah to free up that space and even free up some cap space because the Bulls are in a really interesting situation, at least when it comes to their money and their players. But when I mention Boston, it's not like they would be the only fit for Willie-Cauley Stein. It's just the one that comes to mind just because I've heard it for a while, whether it be from someone like Bill Simmons, whether it be from, the Celtics blog, whether it be from, Celtics beat writers. I mean, he's been mentioned a lot here.
I was just giving you a hard time.
I know, but it's true though. I mean, it's a sad thing that a lot of Boston fans, and as much as I try to be as, unbiased as, really down the middle as I can be, he would be a great fit because that's literally the thing that the team has been missing. And I'm not even going to say Garnett was really a rim protector. He was just really good at telling people where to go because he understood defense. The best rim protector that I've seen for a while, at least, was Kendrick Perkins. And it's not because he could jump and block. It was because he just beat the crap out of whoever was coming at him.
Willie-Cauley Stein at 6, you kind of said he's jumping between that, basically that 5 to 10 range. That's kind of where he's been listed if you go looking from mock draft to mock draft here. I'm not going to give too much away after number 5 because I am writing the NBA draft right now. Everyone can go on SacKingsNation.com, look at the NBA draft, mock draft part 1. It's up there. Picks 1 through 5 are there. My logic between choosing between it all. And at number 5, and this is what I'm going to talk about, is at 5 for Orlando, I actually chose Kristaps Porzingis, the international player.
Right.
And the reason why I touch him, he's a 7'1" 3-point shooter. He stretches the floor, and what I think completely gets overlooked, and like how you were saying how Stein would fit really good next to Vucevic in Orlando, being that defensive stopper. Everyone looks over the fact that because he's very thin, because he's very narrow, Porzingis can't play defense. If you look up tape on Porzingis at 7'1", and I can't remember his wingspan off the top of my head right now, which is
Right.
really bugging the hell out of me because I've been thinking about it the entire time while saying this whole little spiel here. But at 7'1", the guy knows how to move his body. He has great footwork, giving him and has great arms to where he can literally alter shots. Now, is he a great shot blocker? No, but he knows how to put his body into situations where alter shots, and that's what matters. Necessarily, blocking shots doesn't always help. Altering the shot to make them miss and then grabbing a rebound helps. And I agree with you. I'm not a huge fan on Aaron Gordon, but Aaron Gordon did show progress towards the end of the season before all the injuries happened and stuff like that.
Right.
He was actually looking pretty good. His shot was starting to finally go down. I think you're right. I think the comparison to Derek Williams, which is who I compared him to when the draft was happening, he was either going to be worst case scenario, and I put Derek Williams. I can't remember what the best case scenario was, but I do remember putting him down as a Derek Williams. But
it's a shame too. I loved watching him play. In Arizona, it was so awesome watching him play, especially when he dunks.
Yeah, that motor is awesome. But think if you have a lineup where, okay, let's say Porzingis doesn't start, and you have Tobias Harris there. Tobias Harris there. That's a stretch 4. Not only could you have a stretch 4, then you put Porzingis in there and take Vucevic out, you have literally shooting from two positions where the backcourt of Elfrid Payton and Victor Oladipo, they're not really great shooters. And when I mean they're not really that great shooters, I would maybe say Oladipo is average, and you would put Elfrid Payton below average. Like, that's kind of where it ends up. So you're going to need shooting somewhere. I think Tobias Harris, shooter, put him on the team. Add another shooter in Porzingis, shooter, put him on the team. Then you have Vucevic, put him there, have Porzingis right there at the 4 spot, and then have Tobias Harris running your 3 spot. I mean, that they have so many ways they can alter it around, being that he's a 7'1" player, 7-foot even player that can shoot the ball, has great footwork, and handles the ball like any other guard that you've seen at his size. So
Right.
I actually like him at 5. I don't really see and everyone has this player as the number 5 pick, and that's Justice Winslow. And this is what's going to lead back to the Kings, since this is the Kings court. With Justice Winslow, I don't necessarily see him fitting that system. Now, they do need 3-point shooting, like I was just saying before, but at the same time, they already do have an Aaron Gordon on their roster. They already do have a Tobias Harris, an Evan Fournier, and, oh man, I cannot remember the next player off the top of my head because it's Orlando. But they already have those 3 names that I just listed off right there. Adding another player to put into the mix the potential is there, but you don't really know how he's going to work out. I mean, I would kind of lean more towards the way of someone who most draft analysts will say that Porzingis in any other draft would be considered a number 1 pick. If scouts could have watched him more, he would have been a number 1 pick in this draft. That's how high people are on this kid, just because of his shooting, the way he moves, and everything like that. And considering the fact that I believe he's only 19 years old, is crazy.
That helps.
You know what I mean? So I see Justice Winslow slipping to the Kings at 6, Orlando taking Porzingis at 5. Who would you rather have, Willie-Cauley Stein or Justice Winslow?
Willie-Cauley Stein. It's nothing against Winslow, and I just say, I love that first name. There's so many great newspaper headlines you can create with that, especially if he becomes like Justice Winslow. So like if he's rookie for the Kings or whoever, and all of a sudden he gets like a buzzer beater to win the game, I can see the headlines now: Justice served, Kings win, and say so he's more fun. And I like his game. I mean, he's a nice player for the 3 spot. He was a little too inconsistent shooting for my liking at Duke. I have a lot of Duke fanatic friends. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. So, I mean, they tell me all the time where they're like, yeah, he's good, but I wish he wasn't, so inconsistent with his shot and things like that, because he could really turn it on. And he can. He actually has a lot of potential, I think, defensively, too. Not to be, overhyping, but maybe a Draymond Green type of like ability. Not saying he'd be like that good, but they're saying if I know people have said that if he like can't get his offense together, he could definitely be a pretty good defensive player. So I would rather have Stein, Willie-Cauley Stein, just because I know what I'm getting with him defensively, and I think that his offense can actually like become a little more efficient. Think of like a Tyson Chandler type of mold where you're obviously not wanting Tyson Chandler to shoot, but he like is in the top 5 for field goal percentage because he's just that good at dunking. I think that can be the kind of player that Stein evolves into. So I would just rather have that just because I kind of trust that development more than I would of someone like Justice Winslow. For all I know, Justice Winslow could be the next Jimmy Butler. And I'm not, saying that.
I have a different player being the next Jimmy Butler in this.
But draft. I mean, you get what I'm saying, at least with the potential with Winslow. But I would prefer Stein personally.
I'm opposite. I actually really like Justice Winslow. He did go through a little bit of a slump during the year here at during his year at Duke, and I could have sworn you got me, man. I thought it was freaking Kentucky. I'm not gonna lie to you. No,
it was one of the big schools.
Yeah, it was one of the major schools. I know that for sure. But watching him play, the one thing that's like good to see is that he was shooting 41% from 3-point range.
Yeah,
like that, and that's what the Kings desperately need on this team is they have scores. They already have scores. Rudy Gay is a scorer. Ben McLemore's somewhat of a shooter. He's very much improved. Nick Stauskas,
Sauce.
Costello. Man, you know the nickname.
I'll have a funny story to tell you about that later, actually.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a minute. So you have Nick Stauskas, who actually did show a little bit of promise towards the end of the season against all the D-League players that they were playing. But they still need that shooting. And the way that George Karl runs the offense, because Justice Winslow is great in two sets. One being that setup 3, and 2 going downhill, literally going from basket to basket. Mm-hmm. And the way George Karl plays is that up-tempo offense. Defensively, he has a lot of potential. He moves his feet very, very well. He has great lateral quickness, knows how to stay in front of a player. Now, is he a shot blocker like Willie-Cauley Stein? No. Does he interrupt passing lanes like probably a Cameron Payne? No, he doesn't do anything like that. But the way he plays is just because he has that NBA body, he knows how to use it. He knows how to stay in front of the players. Though he does not intercept passes, though you won't see it on the stat sheet of how many steals he's getting. I like your comparison to Jimmy Butler for defense. And this is going to be such a bad comparison, and everyone is going to give me shit for it. But I don't care. I'm going to say it. He's going to be a very homeless, poor man version of Tony Allen. That's the name I'm going with. And
I love Tony Allen.
I love Tony Allen. Defensively, offensively, he's going to have more gifts than Tony Allen.
Yeah.
He can shoot the 3 ball at 41%. He can get to the basket with his crafty and actually very crafty ball handling skills. So I actually really, really like Justice Winslow if he falls to 6. And on top of that, and I've been saying this over and over again, my recommendation for the Kings at 6 is trade that pick. That's my number one option. Trade down. Because I actually like Willie-Cauley Stein. For as much as I say I don't want him, it's not that I don't want him. I don't want him at 6. Trade down and get him somewhere later in the lottery, or get the players that you're looking for. People that I've heard are completely on the market right now is Ty Lawson. He's completely on the market right now. Denver could use another draft pick, and I would honestly rather have Ty Lawson. Maybe you use it and get the point guard of the future, trade in a Darren Collison in the number 6 pick, and maybe like a Nick Stauskas or a Jason Thompson to New York for the 4th pick, and get a D'Angelo Russell or Emmanuel Mudiay. Those are options that are on the table that I actually really want the Kings to do. But if I had a choice between a 19-year-old Justice Winslow and a 21-year-old Willie-Cauley Stein, whose ceiling is higher, I mean, the Kings now, they want to win now. They don't have a win now roster. So keep building. Try and get to a 30-win mark instead of being at 29. You know, everyone's, one game better. No, they sucked this year. And I'm a Kings fan, and I'm a true Kings fan. Being a true Kings fan, you have to admit when the Kings sucked. The Kings sucked this season, and they had showed so much promise in the beginning under Coach Michael Malone, that now I want to see them start growing into something that George Karl wants to form into. And I think with Justice Winslow, it fits the system and how they are playing. Look at the roster, the way they were playing at the end of the year. You had Omri Caspi, Rudy Gay, DeMarcus Cousins, Ben McLemore, and Ray McCallum. That was your starting 5. That's the way they play. They didn't have a shot blocker there. And like we said off air before the show started, what have Kings fans and beat writers and NBA writers have been preaching that this Kings team needs? A stretch four. Justice Winslow isn't that stretch four, but you know who is? That could be is Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay could be that stretch four. Omri Caspi could be a stretch four off the bench. And off the bench. And on top of that, a player that we haven't seen play at an NBA level, but we've seen him play at the D League. He earned himself a contract because of what he did in the D League, and his defense helped propel the Kings to win the Summer League championship, and that's Eric Moreland. Everyone's like, oh, he's not proven yet. Willie-Cauley Stein isn't proven. He's in the NBA draft. He hasn't seen one day on an NBA floor. What you have right there is Eric Moreland, who is the exact same player that we have not seen play yet. We haven't seen, and honestly, a lot of Kings fans hate him, is Jason Thompson. Jason Thompson is hands down the best defensive center on this Kings team.
Okay.
All Kings fans hate him, but he is. Boston would love him.
Let's be honest. No, I've heard the name linked in a couple of like minor trades, but yes.
He would be. Jason Thompson
don't like his
won't be in
contract
Sacramento anymore.
I don't like his contract.
His final year of his contract is this year or next year.
He is in the final year? Ah, I see. I thought he still had 3.
This year or next year. This year or next year.
That's different. That makes it different.
I'll look that up right now, actually, while we're talking about it. But yeah, hands down, JT is literally the best defender on this Kings roster for as much as everyone hates him. So you add that in all together, and Willie-Cauley Stein doesn't really fit everything the Kings. Now, do they need a rim protector? Yes. Do they need better defense? Yes. But do they also need better defense around the perimeter? Justice Winslow brings that. Stanley Johnson brings that. And Stanley Johnson was the player I kind of considered as more of that Jimmy Butler-esque type player, that Ron Artest type
That's my guy. That's my guy. Out of all the players in the draft, he is the guy I really, really like.
I really like him. He has high potential. I would not mind the Kings dropping back down. Yeah. Oh, and on top of that, he is a top-tier prospect right now, and he's the only one who actually participated in the draft combine, which I absolutely loved.
I remember when a lot of people thought he'd be like the 5th best prospect or like around that 6 to 7 area, but he's been falling. I see him more at 10 to Miami, and I was like, oh, God, Miami's going to get another steal.
Yeah, Jason Thompson, Stanley Johnson, his shot just hasn't developed the way that he's been hoping it would. So it kind of
he's like Tony Allen.
Definitely like Tony Allen, but his shot has improved each year. You know what I mean? From his high school days going into college, his shot has actually improved.
Yeah.
So a Tony Allen comparison with him would probably be a lot better, and then a Draymond Green, you were probably right, would probably be a lot better for Justice Winslow. But his shot is improving, so it kind of – I think if he gets put into a right scenario – Jay Crowder would be another good one. How Jay Crowder is a good defender, that would probably be a good one for
I like the Celtic
Stanley
reference.
Johnson.
A Celtic
you're on the show. I had to give some love. So I want to hear about this Nicky Stauskas story, and I want all of you Kings fans to leave you guys' comments in the comment section below. Let me see what side you guys are on. Are you on more of the side of no matter what they need to trade this pick, which is the side I'm on? Who would you rather have, Willie-Cauley Stein or Justice Winslow? You know, leave your comments in the comment section below. All right, go ahead, CJ. Tell me as my dogs are barking in the background. Tell me your Nick Stauskas story.
Well, for me, I've loved the nickname. I thought it was hilarious. And the way I found out about it was pretty much an article from Bleacher Report. And I was reading it, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for an entire day. Not just because, I mean, it was funny what closed caption called him, but it was, one of the funniest things I've read. The writer was very humorous, and I enjoyed it. So I ended up following the writer just to see if he would continue to write more things that are funny. He was Dan Carson, the trending Bleacher Report. He's like the lead writer for the trending topic, so you get like the funnier ones. And what I found, like I ended up was watching the draft lottery and like how Knicks were going nuts because they were the 4th overall pick. And so I've been a big fan of the whole story of the Sauce Castillo story. I thought it was hilarious. And what made it funnier for me was when I found out about it due to a Bleacher Report article, because I like the trending like topic you can get from that from Bleacher Report. I find it funny, especially during college football, when I get to see the signs that they have for College Game Day. So I've always been following that. And the writer for the Sauce Castillo story, he made it 10 times funnier, in my opinion, the way that he wrote it. And I shared it with friends, and they were dying hysterically too. I laughed for an entire day because of the Sauce Castillo. Like, my brother was like thinking like I was a hyena or something. Like, I just kept laughing. So I ended up following Dan Carson, who wrote it, and he's a funny guy on Twitter. And I just like the dude wrote a phenomenal story about this, so I'm going to be following this guy forever. I mean, no big deal. I thought it was pretty cool. So all of a sudden, when the Knicks are fourth in the lottery, he decides to make all these different types of memes showing like the sad Michael Jordan on like Knicks fans, Knicks players, Knicks GM, like all that kind of stuff. And I found it funny because he tweeted out saying, I've made all these different types of memes and I've lost like 10 to 20 followers like every time I've done it. It was worth it. And I was laughing hysterically. I was like, yeah, I like this. And all of a sudden, for some reason, he followed me and we had a conversation where I was like, hey man, thanks for the follow. I loved your Sauce Castillo story. And that's why I started following like all that kind of stuff. And he was like, dude, I love that name. Like, that was just so organic. It was so organic. So we all win with that. And so we just had a conversation about it, and it was really cool, the fact that I was able to have a conversation just with Carson being able to write about something as funny as that. It was so funny. So I have to thank the Kings and Sauce Castillo yet again for just another happy moment for my short 24 years so far.
Sauce, go buy the hot sauce and then go put it on a taco. Let me know how good it tastes. All right.
I bet it will.
That's kind of our show, guys. I mean, that's kind of it. CJ, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys. So where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at CJ Maffris, spelled SEAJAY. My last name MAFFRIS. I tweet all kinds of stuff, mostly NBA, but I do tweet about other sports and other kind of stuff as well. Speaking of which, boxing came to Boston. It was very fun to watch that. I'm a big boxing fan. So seeing local boy Danny O'Connor win was a big thing, at least for me, because where I work, we've gotten to have him on at our news station. So it was really cool. But again, you can find me there. You can have a good time, and I will definitely be checking out Sac Kings Nation, of course, now that I'm a returning guest.
For sure, guys. Yeah, and you guys can follow me on Twitter as well at VM Center. Also, give our video editor for the Kings Court a follow as well. He's at M Silverbrand. I'll leave everyone's stuff in the comment section or in the description below. Also, the Kings Court is now downloadable on iTunes. So every time you want to become a subscriber and you can't really do it on the YouTube channel, go become a subscriber on iTunes. Download the show. Let us know what you guys think. Leave your guys' comments in the comment section below, whether you guys agree or disagree with either CJ or I, and then seeing if you want Justice Winslow, Willie-Cauley Stein, or if you just think just trade that pick.
Stanley Johnson.
Stanley Johnson at 8. Let's see. Let me see who all of you guys think. Again, hit that like button if you guys like the show. Dislike button if you agree or disagree. Let me know what you guys think. Quality Shop, go follow them. Check them out at shopquality.com. And until next time, Kings fans, bye-bye.